show, you are acknowledging that you are of legal age to purchase and consume cannabis in your region. This production is for adults only. Welcome to the Cannabis 101 podcast, part of the Cannabis Life Experience. Your guide through the legalization and consumption of cannabis in Canada and beyond. Join us on this journey and adventure with the wonderful plant. Here's your host, Dean Millard.
Hello there and welcome to episode 79 to 2021 and to a lot of things new when it comes to the Cannabis 101 podcast. Same host, my name is Dean Millard, but there is a lot of new things that will be going on with this show and many other things as well. That's all I want to say right now, but I do want to kick things off like we normally do on this program by finding out what's your groove.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Can you dig it?
Kinda grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
Pipe in a grape, long in a blend.
This is great. This is the bee's knees.
Can you dig it?
So when I say what's your groove, I'm asking that if you're listening to this and you got some sort of cannabis product going, let me know what it is. It could just be some nice CBD tea that you're drinking. Or maybe you've got a fat one.
You mind if I do it, Jay?
Anything, man. You're the dude. But anyway, if you are grooving to something, please let me know. As you can hear in the background, I've got the Supernova Volcano Hybrid filling up with something from Scotia. I've got some Lemon Dory, as you can see. Grabbed it when I was visiting my good friend Chris Ianson at Nova Cannabis Jasper Ave in Edmonton. And so I'm just filling this up, and I'd love to know that if you're grooving with anything during this show, hit me up on Twitter at the Cannabis 101. You can get us at the Cannabis 101 podcast on Instagram and Facebook, or you can email me cannabis101podcast at gmail.com. So I'm going to get my groove on really quickly here. Led Zeppelin. It's about as big as that joint that they had going in Up in Smoke. So anyway, I'll put my bag of weed away. Let you know how the I love this. There's a sweet citrus to that Lemon Dory. But I had some yesterday, and it had a really good boost. Need a boost today. Canada-Russia semifinal of the World Juniors. I'll be going crazy for Canada as soon as I get this recording wrapped up. That game will be starting, so I'm really excited about that. So that's my groove. As mentioned, I'd love to find out what you are, if you are indeed grooving with anything. All right, here's what's coming down the hash pipe on this show, because it's not just about getting high, it's about getting healthy. Well, David Wiley from the OZ, Okanagan Z, he's going to join us for This Week in Cannabis News. We're going to discuss THC-infused black market foods, among other things. Malcolm LaBelle from the Green Generation Co. will also be by on the business of cannabis. Lots to discover there. Micro grows, craft growing. This will be the year for them. The cannabis question is about a gift that you received for Christmas. We'll have Weed Word of the Day, which is about hemp and the forest. And we'll tell you about the Weed Weekly where you can get in on our Friday giveaway. But let's get things going with the cannabis question.
It's prize time! Chime in on the cannabis question.
Okay.
And you could win a Cannabis 101 podcast prize pack.
Pipe and a crepe, bong and a blint.
Hit us up on any of our social media feeds or email us at cannabis101podcast@gmail.com.
Okay, here we go.
So the cannabis question today is, what was the best cannabis gift that you received on this cannabis Christmas past? I loved the effort that my wife, Trish, otherwise known as Nosy McGee, when Chris and I are on the air, she searched for Acapulco Gold because I said I'd love for it to be under the tree. And I don't know where you'd even find it, but she did get me Sinaloa Gold. Sorry, I apologize if I butchered that, which I did, because it was close, and it also comes from Mexico. So that was really, really awesome as far as a cannabis gift that I received from her. So very, very pleased with that. Okay, you can chime in on the cannabis question with whatever great cannabis gift you received, and we'll get you a Cannabis 101 podcast prize pack if you are the name chosen from all the responses that we get. We also did something called the 12 Cultivars of Christmas this year. 12 from myself, 12 from our educator, Chris Ianson, and if you could name all of them, you could win just an absolutely massive cannabis prize pack. We've got some great swag from Nova Cannabis, some sweatshirts, some hats. You'll look like a Nova employee. You'll look that good. It's so cool. As well as some other goodies in there. We've got a PAX era from our friends at Plant Life Cannabis, and Regal Cigars from our good friend Andre. So it's an awesome, massive prize. My beautiful wife, Trish, Nosy McGee, for those of you that follow us on the podcast, has a beautiful Nova hat. Thanks to our friends and all of our great partners for helping us out with this. And we're going to draw the grand prize of our 12 Cultivars of Christmas. So, Nosy McGee, sniff out a winner. What do you got? What do you got going? They're all balled up, so she can't actually see what names they are. But
No.
she's using her nose. Yeah, there they are. They're all balled up, so pick a winner. It's only an hour show. All right. What is the name? Congratulations to
I don't know, my glasses.
Marie. Marie, if you entered, if you're watching, congratulations. Reach out to us, but we'll get in touch with you and get this wicked prize pack sent out to you. Thank you to everybody who entered and participated and enjoyed the 12 Cultivars of Christmas. We had a massive reaction to it, and a great one as well. So we enjoyed doing it, and certainly I hope you enjoyed being a part of it as well. And it all comes back to, our great partners, the information that we can provide thanks to, Chris at Nova Cannabis and, our friends. I always go and see my friend Gage at Plant Life, and for them to be able to contribute some prizes, and Andre from Regal Cigars, it's so wonderful. We have the best partners out there. David Wiley from the OZ, Malcolm LaBelle from the Green Generation Co. And of course, we also have Stonesmiths, a great partner of ours. Check them out at stonesmiths.ca. I hope a lot of you got a slash under the tree. You'll love that built-in loader. If you're in a cold weather climate, you're going to love the battery. And if you didn't get one, you can find them at Shell Shock in Edmonton, Smokers Junction in Calgary, and Cowboy Smoke Shop in Calgary and Vancouver as well. So thank you to all of our partners, especially the ones that help contribute on a daily basis to the education of cannabis, like David Wiley from the OZ.
What's happening? We'll tell you right now on This Week in Cannabis News.
Back with my good friend David Wiley of the OZ for our first segment officially of 2021. Of course, we did the top 5 stories of the year on New Year's Day. But David, great to chat with you. How was everything for you over your holiday season?
It was awesome. Good to see you again. I got a mug with a D on it for Christmas.
Nice.
So I'm feeling very fancy right now.
Yeah, or you won't lose it, right? You'll know whose mug that is when you go to grab it. So that's very fancy. I really like that.
I never thought about that benefit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's great to chat with you again. And, 2020 was a very bizarre year and a tough year for a lot of people, but very bizarre with a lot of things that happened. And man, this first couple of stories in 2021, they're right up there when it comes to kind of bizarreness. So let's start with this first one about a raid, I guess, and it includes cannabis-infused potato chips.
It's, I used to cover a lot of crime stories as a hard news journalist. And so many of those stories were about grow up busts where police laid out pounds of pot, paraded perps to provincial court over possession charges. So let's not forget what prohibition was and is still in most of the world. And that said, there are still crime stories, and some of them are actually quite interesting. Here's one. We've got a bust at a home in the Vancouver borough of Surrey where they found a unique cannabis-infused product, potato chips. I imagine it must have been the salt that they infused THC in, but who knows? It just goes to show that whether your legacy, illicit, legal, whatever, we're still inventive. Police say that their investigation in this case lasted 3 months, and along with those chips, they also seized MDMA, a pound of psychedelic mushrooms, and other things that you would generally expect. So lots of shatter, lots of bulk bud, 3.5 pounds of packaged cannabis, and it's still happening. There's another strange one too. In the Yukon Territory, residents there purchased beef or bison jerky from a local business are being told not to eat it because it may contain THC. And that came because people had complained after eating this jerky that they were feeling things like nausea, numbness, difficulty walking, a high heart rate, and emergency doctors found traces of THC when people went to the hospital for treatment. So all of these off-the-hook Meatworks products are now off the shelves. So whether you want to get them or you don't want to get them, they're not there anymore. So here we are. Yeah, a couple of crimes to start off the year, and I'm sure lots more to happen. Those potato chips, though. What do you think of those?
Well, it's interesting. Both the THC jerky and the potato chips. I certainly don't advocate not telling somebody that there's THC in something. So the jerky is definitely over the line. The potato chips, I don't advocate the black market of the products there. But what it does is it's just. I didn't think about it. I don't know enough yet about food and cooking. I just had Chef Jordan Wagman on. I wish he was on this week so I could ask him that question. I don't know how it all works, but what I'm getting at is it's new ideas. We've seen the gummies, we've seen chocolate, we've seen drinks. Now maybe cannabis companies, and if they're not already, and if there's anybody out there watching or listening that wants to chime in and let us know how this possibly might work, I'd love to hear that. So this just might open up new avenues, right? Like the more products we can successfully infuse cannabis with, the better, as long as it's on the legal market.
I feel like I'm going to the crime pages to get, edible suggestions here.
Recipes.
So yeah, exactly. And it's amazing the things that we see and the things that we will see. There's always something to talk about, isn't there?
Yeah, no doubt. So that's an interesting one to watch. Some of the other products that were there, like you said, you would normally think would be in a bus, but the food, and then the other story with the jerky, concerning people going to the hospital when they're not expecting it. But it certainly does give people out there with some really good ideas. Now, this is a great idea, our next story that we're going to talk about. And this is something that I've done. I bet you I can count the amount of alcoholic drinks I had over the entire holiday. Well, I can on one hand. I had 3 glasses of wine and 2 beer. That's what I had. The rest was cannabis. And I'm, like a lot of people right now, choosing pot over booze.
Yeah, I had mimosas on Christmas, and that's sort of a holiday tradition in the family.
Okay, I had 6. You're right. I had that too.
it's a good way to get orange juice, I guess, and your champagne at the same time. We knew that weed was going to be a disruptor, and we're getting a glimpse at some of the extent. AJ Harrington, who writes a lot about weed, wrote on Forbes that over almost half of cannabis consumers who are 21 and older have replaced or reduced their alcohol consumption by using cannabis since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. Those are the results of a Harris poll released at the end of 2020. This is of Americans, so take it all with a grain of salt, so to speak, because we don't necessarily know what the numbers are here in Canada. Going on trends, you imagine that they're pretty similar. That poll found that 1/3 of those who use cannabis recreationally just prefer it to drinking alcohol. But of the 2,000 Americans who were surveyed about their consumption habits since the beginning of COVID-19, basically 42% said that they'd either started or increased their cannabis consumption during the pandemic, while 45% said they'd replaced or reduced alcohol use with cannabis. And the survey was conducted on behalf of Curaleaf, so they're a manufacturer of and retailer of cannabis products that have operations in 23 states. So, where basically the survey was funded. Parents also, this was something that really resonated with me, is that parents are turning to cannabis at higher rates than those without children, according to the survey. And you take from that what you will. I personally think that cannabis is something that is just much more relaxing. And when I find myself, drinking one or two too many mimosas, that, I could become a little over the top sometimes, I gotta say. That said, when I'm enjoying a little bit of the old THC, I find myself much more likely to sit and play Lego with my son, or do chemistry products with my daughter. Like, I just love to be around and spend time with my kids, when I've got a little bit of a buzz on. That's, of course, not an advertisement for people to go out and overconsume or just get blitzed before they're parenting their kids. But there is something to say about the difference between the two.
Oh, well, and listen, there's just on the other side, when you say I'm going to go have a beer, it doesn't mean you're going to get blotto either, right? So you can have in moderation cannabis, just like people have alcohol in moderation, and I agree with you, and so many other people agree with you too. In that same story, there was another study that was conducted in California, and 2/3 of the respondents said that they plan to replace alcohol use with cannabis during the holiday season. 67% said the replacement of alcohol with cannabis would increase over 2019. So this is a trend that's going, in arrow up, as former Edmonton Oilers head coach Tom Rennie used to say. So it's a good trend, and it's a healthier trend. And by no means am I thinking alcohol is going to be gone and people are going to stop drinking, but you could just reduce your alcohol intake and save your liver a little bit by replacing that, whatever it is, with a cannabis product. So that's my sermon. I don't mean to crap on the alcohol industry, but for me, it's something that just doesn't always agree with me the way, and I just don't feel good with it. So I've replaced it with cannabis.
And to each their own. And people who are using cannabis over alcohol are saying too that it reduces their stress and their anxiety, helps them relax, and it helps them to sleep. So, there are reasons why people use cannabis and reasons why people use alcohol. And, we're learning about both. And here we go. Yeah. Onward and upward.
Indeed. And that's what people, particularly lawmakers in New York, are looking at. And man, we've talked about this, right? As soon as we saw the other states sort of fall when it comes to prohibition and adding some sort of, whether it's medical or recreational legalization, all around New York, it was like they were surrounded by cannabis legalization in some way, and it was only a matter of time, and the ball is really starting to roll in that state right now.
I mean, they've got to be feeling the pressure. As predicted, New York just doesn't want to lose face to New Jersey. Legalized recreational cannabis during their referendum there during the U.S. election last fall. They're still working out the kinks, but that's to be expected. And New York lawmakers now are moving ahead with their own plans, to reform the state's cannabis laws in 2021. They've pre-filed 8 bills so far, according to Marijuana Moment, that are going to be considered in the upcoming session. All these new measures deal with reforming the state's current medical cannabis system, but still they come along with that push from the governor there and legislators to legalize it in 2021. Now, those 7 cannabis bills have been preemptively introduced in the Assembly and one, so the 8th one there in the Senate, and they touch on a wide range of topics, everything from tenants' rights for medical cannabis patients to health insurance coverage for cannabis products. And all of these different pieces of legislation are being introduced as lawmakers in New York are pursuing their own recreational cannabis legalization legislation. And that's policy that's been in the works for the last couple of years. Their Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's a Democrat, recently said that enacting a regulated cannabis market and taxing products would offset economic losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's something else that we've talked about a lot over the last year, is that when it comes to prohibition, sometimes the changes come when you've seen real challenges in the economy, because it does open up new opportunities for taxation and new opportunities to offset those economic pressures that are being faced. And again, that's not only what we're seeing in New York, but we're starting to see in a lot of other states in the U.S. It's going to be a year or two of change across the border, and something that I'm really excited to see.
Mm-hmm. It's basically repeating history. After the Great Depression, what came back? Alcohol sales, and prohibition was lifted, and the taxation from it, and it's happening again, rightfully so, with cannabis. And we talk a lot about federal legalization. Is it going to get past the Republicans? But even the Republicans in New York are saying, yeah, this is going to happen. We're seeing everybody around us. So right now it's an empire of weed state of mind in New York, because they're just, there's no other way to go. It would just be foolish for them not to take these next steps. And I know Mr. Cuomo has been pushing hard for this, and it's sweeping the nation right now, and it will continue in 2021.
And I mean, let's not forget too that our number one story in 2020 that we talked about was that cannabis went from illegal to essential in such a short period of time in so many different places. And that says a lot when politicians are debating cannabis and whether or not it should be legal. A lot of them are looking at that.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of history shows, and I watched a lot of shows about alcohol prohibition, and back then there was a lot of resistance to that too, from a lot of religious groups and the teetotalers, as they called them. But the similar push against cannabis, it doesn't seem like it's there. Maybe just because we have so much more information, right? We just know so much more about this plant than we ever did. And I think a lot of people have maybe, looked at the economic benefits first of all, but then looked at the other benefits and some of the research and stuff, said, yeah, I'm not selling my soul to the devil to legalize this, right? Like, there is some good benefits. So I think just that the overall tide on this has certainly changed. And, to dovetail on that story about New York, you have a state in Illinois that is, just shredding cannabis, records and charges when it comes to the legal system. And this is what happens when laws are changed. People get their lives, their freedom, and their livelihoods back because of silly charges over cannabis.
Yep, this is the way. We want to even the playing field. Let's not limit people who chose weed over booze in their youth and had the bad luck of getting busted. And really here we're talking about being equitable. And in that sense, Illinois is raced 500,000 low-level cannabis charges. And you mentioned earlier that we're not seeing as much push against cannabis as we maybe had during alcohol prohibition. I think that we're starting to see a significant push for cannabis. And a lot of that pressure is coming from the idea of social justice. And that's what's happening here. Right away in Canada, there was a lot of pressure to pardon people who had faced, jail time, criminal records over even just minor possession charges. So, and that's what's happening here. The governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, has cleared the state's non-felony cannabis cases. So that's along with the 9,219 low-level cannabis convictions to start 2021. So the Democratic politician signed legislation 2019 legalizing recreational cannabis use in Illinois. So that started last year. And that allowed for almost 770,000 residents there to have their cannabis-related offenses expunged, and that's a record of criminal conviction that's destroyed or sealed from state or federal records. Now he says, granted, in his words, we will never be able to fully remedy the depth of the damage in communities of color who have disproportionately shouldered this burden, but they can govern with the courage, as he says, to admit the mistakes of the past and the decency to set a better path forward. And both of those points are extremely important, to remedy the damage that was done and to have the decency to move forward in a better way. 2021, I really hope that that's what we're going to see. More of that, admitting that prohibition against cannabis was a mistake and fixing the consequences of that mistake, particularly when it comes to social justice.
Yeah, well, in life in general, when you can sit there and say, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, it goes a lot farther than, it's not my fault, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not, blah, blah, blah. It just, culpability, when you just admit your mistake and you admit your fault, people have a tendency to see you in a better light. And that quote was so bang on. And I think they had until 2025 to get some of this stuff done. So they really, really got the ball rolling on this. And it's really encouraging to see. And I think that I hope a lot more people can just come to realize and say, hey, I made a mistake. My mind is now different. I've changed my mind. I realize that there's benefit and we can move forward, rather than just, acting like a 5-year-old that won't leave the White House or something like that, to reference a different kind of a story. But, I think there is, as you mentioned, just a more open-mindedness, because there is actual research. There is, whether, you can call it anecdotal, but there's actual medical research on the benefits of this plant. And 2020 was amazing for that election, and I just think that more and more is going to start opening up throughout the United States, as it has through here in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's more than just words too. I like that Illinois has created a program that's reinvesting 25% of their tax revenue from cannabis sales into a fund for youth development, anti-violence projects, economic development, and civil legal aid services, especially in areas that are dealing with high levels of gun violence, child poverty, and imprisonment. Because that's what happens when you start a drug war. You end up with gun violence, poverty, and imprisonment. Yeah,
you're tearing families apart, for sure. Great stuff, David. As usual, the first official segment of 2021, and here's to many, many more down the road. You can find the OZ at Okanagan Z, or at Okanagan Z on Twitter, and you can find them at okanaganz.com on the website. First episode with these this new mouth that I got for Christmas, David. You'll have to forgive me, but have a great 2021, and we'll talk soon.
Great to see you and talk to you, my friend.
It's beautiful and deep, so let's go smoke some grass. It's time to bust out this podcast.
The wonderful Weed song from the artist My Dead Dog. Always love listening. He actually put out a Christmas album this year, and it was wonderful. Not so wonderful. The Cannabis and Hemp Expo has been postponed again. Unfortunately, it was supposed to be held in late April in Edmonton, but the continued restrictions, unfortunately, and rightfully so, until we get COVID-19 under wraps, this will be rescheduled again. Whenever it happens, we'll be there on location, broadcasting episodes. You can check out the information if you want to at cannabishempexpo.com. We will have tickets to give away whenever they get around to hosting this and whenever we can interact with the masses once again.
This is the Business of Cannabis, a joint venture between the Green Generation Co. and the Cannabis 101 podcast. Bringing you the latest bud, biz, buzz.
We dive back into the business of cannabis as I bring in my good friend Malka LaBelle from the Green Generation Co. Malka, thank you so much for joining us once again here in 2020. Hope you had a great, relaxing, while working holiday, as most of us probably did.
Yeah. I'm such a junkie for the work, but I really enjoyed some time with the family. We started watching all the holiday movies again, so that was fun. Home Alone, that never gets old.
No doubt. Yeah, there's always those classics that you can throw on at any point during the holiday season, and it makes it a lot of fun. And the business world continues to churn things out as we look towards a new year and many new opportunities. And let's start talking about the year of 2021. And you're talking about it as kind of the year of the micro and the year of the craft grower, where maybe they really stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, so I mean, this is something I'm extremely excited about because the idea did not come out from me. It's something I've been talking about a long time, really got to honing in on our craft and our micro cultivators and the way the cannabis is supposed to be grown. But this was an announcement made in the December trade day from Ontario Cannabis store, basically. So the OCS, so the Ontario Cannabis Store, put in their release of at the end of 2020 that they plan to unveil a craft cannabis designation for small batch and handcrafted cannabis. Expected to unveil Q1 of 2021, so right away here. So this is really exciting because, I mean, as you and I both know, there has been a ton of supply on the market. So available product, particularly with new stores coming online. But there's been kind of this, people want the craft stuff, but it's sort of hard to find, hard to get, and not really well understood what that means. So here, the Ontario Cannabis Store is putting in a definition that what that is, and which is fantastic. It's a hang dried, so it's the cannabis plants are hung to dry as opposed to using drying or dryer technology or methods. They also talk about it being hand trimmed. So there's lots of trimming equipment out there that's a big, makes things faster and, automatic. But the fact that products are hand trimmed, from a good using perspective or user's perspective, you can tell when a product has been trimmed properly or not. So this is fantastic that they're highlighting that. And the hand package, cannabis that's packaging is a huge boon in the industry that we've talked about a lot. It's one of the ones I'm near and dear to my heart, and hopefully we'll get a lot better with some of the stuff that's coming on the market in terms of sustainability. But right now we're seeing, the packaging killing the plant, literally. So I like that they're using this hand packaging designation as part of the craft cannabis, definition, and super excited to see what this is going to bring forward. They also talk about the size and the footprint, about how much cannabis can be produced to give it that definition, which is way bigger than just a micro. So I want to, shout out to all of the LPs that are standard cultivators that are going with the larger amount of growth, but they're doing it in the small batch way. So that's good. Those are going to be included in this as well. We're going to see, lots of these amazing strains that people really flock towards because they are that super high quality. They could be rare. They could be hard to find or not really seen in Canada yet. So I'm super stoked about what this is going to mean for the growth of the industry and how really we're going to get to flourish around these, with the way it should be done in small batches and with the care and hand attention that has been done for a long time.
Yeah, and it really is that there's been a lot made about corporations getting involved in cannabis, and some people don't like it. But if you thought legalization was going to happen without corporations, then they were extremely naive. But there is room for both, and there's a lot of people that might be saying, "That's a great idea. I'd like to get into that. How do I do it?"
Yeah, so there's a couple of great ways. I mean, there's a lot of companies that are focusing on finding other smaller micro cultivators or craft growers and doing the processing and packaging for them. So a great example, we already see in BC with the Shelter brand and some other brands like that. But here we have Make It Micro. So this is a group that I'm a part of, I'm going to say, that is founded out of the BC Craft Farmers Co-op. And this is a way to to get a micro cultivation license sort of with the least amount of capital up front. So the concept is that this site allows you to sort of walk through the process and understand what's involved with becoming a micro cultivator, and also connect with the vendors and the partners that have scaled down their product and services to really be for that small footprint. So the 600 kilogram annual grow and the 200 square meter size. And there's a few different options for facilities. You can do greenhouse, you can do indoor. And this is really geared towards people that were either ACMPR growers or MMAR growers, or just really want to get into the business of cannabis, but aren't sure where to start. And starting small with a micro cultivation business with Health Canada, this is meant to lower those hurdles, create working with people that have already done it before, and can really help you put the pieces together to create your own type of grow system and operation that you want on your land. So not putting you in a place, but doing it on your own land that you own. And then going out to the financing partners that I've lined up. So these are all people that I've already been working with. And they're going to basically help you build that package and do like a leasing option, just like you would a mortgage on a home. So similar kind of concept. This allows those barriers to come down so people can create a microcultivation business, even if they don't have a massive business background or a ton of corporate experience. This allows you to be a farmer and make it yourself. And that's the whole point of Make It Micro.
I love the idea of being able to do that on your own existing land. If somebody, is looking for something else to do, a second career, and they have that space, it's perfect. If you as you mentioned, for different farmers that want to branch out. So I really think that's a huge benefit and a huge draw for a lot of people, that they don't have to, they might not have to go out and purchase something that, that could be adding an extra cost to that.
Exactly. So that was the whole concept behind that, and anyone could check it out. And we're just so excited to see some of the new craft stuff come on the market. And this is a great way if you've got strains, if you've got seeds. The only time you can bring a new strain or a new cultivar into the legal cannabis space in Canada is when you get your license. So either a micro license or any one of the licenses, that's the only time. So if you're onto something that has a unique strain that's really awesome, this is the time and place to do it. And now is the time, with the year of the 2021 being the year of the craft and micro cultivator.
Awesome. That is, that's just a great lead topic that we have, and a great lead into 2021 as well, with some terrific optimism. So I really appreciate that. Let's get on to change makers now, and tell us about Capital Now Cannabis.
Yeah, so I was mentioning before, I've been on the hunt of, different kinds of investors or equity partners for a lot of my clients for the last 2 years. So that's what I've been doing. And, what's really cool is that some companies that have sort of been sitting on the sidelines watching what's happening in the industry and seeing where they could fit. This is one example. So this kind of company, some people are familiar with it, it's called a factoring solution. So what that means is that they essentially help with cash flow. So if you already have an existing cannabis business, if you're a cultivator or a processor, or you have a retail license and you're selling directly to the boards like the AGLC or BC or even Ontario, and it's a cash flow situation. So you're selling all of your product at the same time to one buyer. And then you're in limbo until you get paid for that product. It could be anywhere from 2 weeks, I've heard, that as the best case scenario, to 90 days, or more. You just sometimes don't know how that's going to lay out. So this is a group that's offering, basically financing on those receivables and on those invoices. And it's a very much a standard way of financing and exists in the real world or the rest of the world in many places, particularly with heavy equipment or people that are working on capital projects, either for cities or governments or really in the oil and gas industries where we've seen a lot of this already. So it is very familiar to people in Alberta. But it's not bad debt. So that's the other thing is people think that, well, they're just collecting on bad debt. I'm like, no, the debt is still good. You're still waiting for it, but you just may have to wait a while because it's the terms that are set out. So these guys will work with you. And through my partnership with them, we're going to work with the cannabis companies to make sure that they understand how this all works, that it's very easy for them to work with them on an ongoing basis, whether they have one invoice or multiple. And I just thought that this group really took a look at what's going on in the industry and figured out a way to make their product and service fit within this, within the needs that are out there. And that's something that I thought was super impressive. The other funny thing about this is when I first heard about this, it was in regards to oil and gas stuff. And in April of this year, so April of 2020, and I literally put these people's logo on my pitch deck back then before they were even doing it for cannabis. It's almost like I planted a seed in somebody's brain or they did it in their own. And at the same time, and then it really didn't come to fruition until much more recently. So that's the part that's cool about this is that everyone's sort of thinking in the same way and it's putting their brains together and not being competitive around these kinds of things, but really opening up the trend, what everyone's thinking at the same time, the transparency around it. So that's what I think is super cool about them as a change maker is that, we were all on different pages, but at the same time, we came together to find a solution that works. And now is really the time to unveil it. So that's the cool part about Capital Now Cannabis. And you can get to them through me. So reach out.
All right. So how do people get a hold of you to reach out and get some more information?
So you can go to my website, thegreengencompany.com, and contact us. Every contact button on that page works. You can also reach me directly at malka@greengencompany.com or through LinkedIn or Twitter, Instagram. All of our handles eventually lead to me, is on the page there. So that's a great way to find me right now. Right.
And they can get more information about that. And so was this a company that was, as you meant, I think you mentioned maybe doing this with heavy equipment and then said, hey, let's get into the cannabis as well? Or is this kind of something that happened and somebody had the idea to do it for cannabis? Either way, it's great because I just wonder about the path to it.
Yeah, so the factoring space, like I said, has been around. Capital Now is a factoring company, particularly in the heavy equipment and oil and gas. And then they kind of spun off a sort of a separate fund and a separate division specifically for cannabis. So it's kind of an arm's length concept, but the people behind it are essentially the same. The cool part about it is they're not brokers. So this is a lot of people are fearful of, talking to a bunch of brokers about their money problems. But in this situation, you're dealing directly with the people that own the funds. So and I'm essentially the middleman. So, or my group. So that's why I brought in more people on my team that are experts in this, because I think this is a huge opportunity within the industry, and they'll look at all types of invoices. So for more information, reach out and we can definitely have a conversation around that and find the right fit.
I just like that it's a company that is doing something already, and then look to say, we can get into this cannabis space. And that's the great thing about cannabis is we talk a lot about LPs, we talk a lot about retailers. Sometimes we forget about all the outer layer of work and businesses involved in the cannabis industry that are, maybe not producing any kind of cannabis, but helping support the industry. And that's how it's going to grow. And more mainstream companies or non-cannabis companies maybe kind of getting involved in it. I just think that's great symmetry that I think we're going to see a lot more often as we go.
Definitely. And that's what I say to people, they're like, well, what do I have to learn to get in the cannabis space, or and I'm like, don't learn anything. Come with your own experience and we'll figure out how what you do can pivot and work in the cannabis space. And that's essentially what I've been doing for 2 years, is find people that have strengths in other areas and bring those into this industry, because it's cruel. It's just a blank slate and there's so much opportunity.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's get into what it means to be green. And literally, we're talking about the Green Book. Tell us about Green Book.
So Green Book is my own invention. Again, I'm all about the plugging today, I guess. I got a lot of my own projects on my brain, but they really interweave together, and it's a lot about helping new cannabis producers or new, I call them cannapreneurs. This is for the cannapreneur. So that's really any business or person that wants to get into the cannabis space. The Green Book is for them. So what is the Green Book? Well, it starts with a story. So in some cases, the stories that we've talked about have really originated on this show. The stories of producers, of cultivars, of different people that have come to the cannabis industry and the path that they took to get here. And starting with their story, this is a place where they can find the resources to help grow their business. So examples of that are facts and data. So everything from the news sources that are out there that are, specifically looking at cannabis stories, some of the analysis, some of the data behind it. So I'm working with several different groups that are building data sets for continuous information, leading up to essentially a dashboard so that a producer or there's a retailer version can come and look at this information and be able to glean instant analysis for what they need for decision making in their day. So for example, a retail store might come to this and look at the Green Book pages around what are the trending brands. So what are the brands or the cultivars that people are pulling off the shelves in other places, and how to get more information about that, for example. The pricing. So pricing is kind of a black hole of information. You're not really sure it's coming from the boards in the middle, but really there's retail stores get the choices of how they price things, and there's a bit of room there. So sometimes knowing what's competitive in their area would be helpful for them, as two examples of the kind of information, as well as all these other ancillary services that we talked about, whether it be Capital Now Cannabis, or really anyone has the opportunity to be an advertiser on this in the Green Book, kind of like almost like a Yellow Pages in some way. It's the Green Pages. So this is a place where it will be an evergreen set of information online. So it's not a physical book. It's going to be a digital version that's business focused to help new cannapreneurs and businesses in the industry get all the information they need so they can start their day and go into their business with the full set of information that they need to run it.
Interesting. I like the analogy to the Yellow Pages. I like it being the Green Pages and being able to find not only just like you did in the Yellow Pages, a phone number, but a whole lot more information as well.
Yeah, so the three different analogies that I put together to create this concept was, yes, kind of like the Yellow Pages, and then it's a directory for people and information in the space. Number two, it's kind of like a black book, like for cars, where you find out what is the value of things based on the information that precedes it. So there's a bit of that component where you'll be able to find the value of certain either cultivars or brands or strains or other products based on historical information around it that's real and not made up, basically. And the other one is, it's kind of like a bit of like Facebook in the sense that it's bringing people together. So there's a community aspect. There's finding out what people's, why they got into the industry, like what's their true story, and not just to make a business, but, as we've heard some interesting ones. So those were the three sort of, things that inspired me to put this together. And I'm right now in the launch phase with the accelerator program and raising some funds to, make it even bigger and reach more people as we go. So super excited. And anyone that wants to vote on either the logo. So we're right now I'm tallying up the votes for who likes the logo, and as well as if anyone wants to see a beta test, I'll be also doing those in the next couple of weeks. So you can also reach me through my regular website at malka@greengencompany.com or greengencompany.com to sign up for a beta test and see what it's all about.
Very awesome. As I voted, I like the logo on the left that's on the screen, the open Green Book. So you have my vote for that one, and I'm really excited to see this fully rolling out at some point. I think it's a great one-stop shop for any cannabis, anybody in the cannabis industry, really.
Yeah, and it will be open to people that are not in as well, as on a subscription basis. So if you're not a contributing member, you can also just subscribe and just find out more information and see what's going on all the time. That's part of it as well.
Awesome stuff. You can find out more information at www.greengencompany.com. Malka, thanks so much for joining me on the first edition of the Business of Cannabis in 2021. And here's to many more great, successful ones as we go. Thanks so much. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, Dean. Have a great day.
This is the Cannabis 101 podcast, part of the Cannabis Life Experience, turning the wheel of cannabis one toke at a time.
And we're able to turn the wheel of cannabis thanks to our great partners. You just heard from Malka LaBelle from the Green Generation Co. You heard David Wiley earlier from the OZ. And you'll hear Chris Ianson later on this week. And, of course, our good friends at Stone Smiths, a great partner as well. The Slash is the boss. All you do is you grab your item, double click it to auto fire. You wait your 4 seconds for it to heat up, and then boom. Whatever concentrates you got in there, you're vaping. So I actually have very little left in that. So always keep your Slash full. When you're always keep your Slash clean is what I should be saying. But I love it. I hope you got it under the tree this year for Cannabis Christmas because I certainly love mine, and I hope you were able to enjoy it as well. All right, let's get into our final little segment of the day and talk some weed words.
Bud, dope, flower, ganja, Mary Jane.
We all have our own language when it comes to cannabis.
Herb, John Lennon, plant, Thai stick, salad.
So let's explore another weed word of the day.
Samuel L. Jackson, The Hobbit's Leaf, Lady Gaga, 420.
So weed word of the day, we give you a slang word and a more standard industry word. And the slang word is one of my favorites. It's tree because it kind of looks like a tree when you get your nugs and your stems, and it's a plant. So I love the word tree, obviously green. It's what I have called it a lot in the past. We would say, let's go meet in the trees. Sort of, like, do you got any tree sort of thing? That's what we went with. So I love it. I actually, it's one of my favorite slang words when it comes to weed and cannabis is tree. The other weed word of the day on the standard side is feral hemp, which is, you've heard the term feral horses, which is, they're basically wild horses they were tame at one point, and then they became, feral or wild. And feral hemp is wild growing cannabis that came from hemp plants previously cultivated for fiber and have just continued to grow. So they were grown for something, and they've just kept going. People have called it ditchweed because there's no THC, really, psychoactive properties in it. And the cannabis plant, if you are very new, is so hardy. I mean, you can be growing, break part of it, and basically put it back together, and it's gonna regenerate itself and grow. So it's been found across Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. So it can pretty much grow in a lot of places. So that's feral hemp. It's just kind of stuff, and you might see that when you're driving and think, oh, there's a hemp farmer around here, but no, it might just be that sort of little bit of kind of feral hemp, as it were. So that is your weed word of the day on the slang and standard side: a little tree and a little feral hemp.
The Cannabis Life Experience. It's not just about getting high. It's about getting healthy. Turning the wheel of cannabis, one toke at a time.
All right, that's going to basically wrap things up for this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening or watching. If you did listen and you want to check us out, we're on our YouTube channel at the Cannabis 101 podcast. And we also stream these throughout the week on social media. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please subscribe, leave us a review, let us know what you think. If you're watching on YouTube, just click the subscribe and then the bell, and you'll get an update on any new episode and lots of different individual segments that they do. And wherever you find your podcasts, click subscribe. It'll come in each time we put one out, and let us know certainly what you think of the show. Also, check out the Cannabis101podcast.ca, where you can sign up for the Weed Weekly. That is basically our newsletter. It comes out every Friday, although I took some time off during the holidays, so I apologize for those loyal subscribers not getting the goods. But when we do, it comes out on Fridays, recaps the show. We have a giveaway and other few fun things in there as well. It's a great way to keep up to what's going on with hopefully one of your favorite podcasts. Again, thanks to all of our partners like Stonesmiths. You can find the Slash at Shell Shock in Edmonton. Check out stonesmiths.ca for more information. A great local company. Awesome if you're just getting into dabbing for the first time and you're intimidated by a torch. This thing is perfect for you. David Wiley from the OZ is great if you want to keep up with all the great news and bad news, unfortunately, in the cannabis industry, and get the latest bud biz buzz from Malcolm LaBelle on the business of cannabis. Thanks to them for joining us, our great partners as well. If you'd like to be involved in the show as a partner or as a guest, hit me up through email, cannabis101podcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on any of our social media channels and reach me there, or check out the website at cannabis101podcast.ca. Hour 2 on Wednesday features Tanner Stewart of Stewart Farms as our feature interview. They've got some great bath bombs that are hitting Alberta stores as we speak, and our educator, Chris Ianson, manager of Nova Cannabis, Jasper Ave, on our newly named segment. There's going to be a lot of new stuff over the next little while with this show and much more. You can find past episodes at cannabis101podcast.ca, and you can find more of my programs at podcastalley.ca. As always, we leave you with the marijuana song from the artist My Dead Dog. Remember, it's not just about getting high, it's about getting healthy. We'll talk again on Wednesday.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
We got a winner. I said we got a winner.
Dynamite! 0.0